Hello, I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. The Spanglish World Network welcomes you here on Zingo TV Channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me is the brilliant one, the brains of the operation, Eduardo Herrera. Aaron William Freeland. Yeah.
I was waiting on that, Frank. You were gilding the lily a little too
Uh,
much there.
I was Lily Gilden. Yeah, that's right. I knew a girl named Gilda once. Does anybody call anybody Gilda anymore?
Not unless it's their name.
Gilda Gramolini. That was her last name. I remember her from grade one, grade
Huh.
two. Yeah, well, anyway. Um, I have to say that it's hump day. And how are you feeling about the war in, I forgot the name of the place. Where is it again? It's out there in Europe
Ukraine?
someplace. Ukraine? Is that what it's called? Sorry, I don't hear the name enough. So how am I supposed to remember? Now, am I making fun of the war? No, I'm sharing something with you right now. We're seeing all this stuff, elevation of pain and tragedy. We're seeing people killed in the streets. And I just wonder a little bit, Aaron, how desensitized are you to that kind of news?
I think at a certain point, the human brain gets numb to it to a certain extent. When the airways are continuously oversaturated with the news of tragedies and not any sort of uplifting news, it does get to be a drain mentally.
Doesn't it?
Um,
It
yeah,
really does. I agree with you and concur with you 100%. And this is what worries me is that we become desensitized to tragedy like that. That the kind of tragedy that if it was visited upon us, I don't think we in Canada could take it for more than 5 or 10 minutes. Never mind going on the second month.
no, I don't think, unfortunately, a lot of countries or a lot of citizens have the fortitude to put up with that sort of thing in an age where things are expected to be resolved quickly. In an age where we've removed the gap between not knowing and knowing, and in an age of instant gratification, you're going to find a lot of people I don't think would be able to deal with something like this on an ongoing basis.
The reason I mention that right now, because we do news here, and I wanted to frame the news that we talk about. You've half joked about, and I agree with the joke, the joke being that, you know, you see the memes on Facebook, you see the all the different boards that make fun of the situation. For example, the convoy. Here we are all preoccupied with getting a jab whose purpose is to help everybody, to make us safer. Now, I'm not taking into consideration, and I should, that some people feel it doesn't work. That's why I say the attitude that they have in Ukraine, I think they're not as far removed from a lack of freedom as we are. And I have to say, sometimes it seems like we take what we have for granted. Like the end of the world happened last night. I don't know. Did you hear about what happened? The end of the world yesterday?
No, I'm not sure which end of the world you're referring to. There
The
seem to be
Leafs
about
lost
four of
last
them every
night.
day.
The Leafs
Oh,
lost last
that.
night. And
Mm.
they were ahead 5-1. I mean, tragedy of tragedies. It's so terrible. So I'm just trying to put it in context. In the Canadian Football League, the commissioner waited a whole week or 9 days, 10 days maybe, to talk to the rest of the owners to say, look, there's people out there that are here and that we want to go four downs. Who wants to go four downs? 9 teams, 7 hands stay down, 2 go up. Coincidentally, 2 are also partners with the National Hockey League. So that's a bit of a segue. We do the National Hockey League all the time. And to me it's amazing that people think that 4 downs is going to solve the problem. I just want to say one thing, and please, I'd like to hear from you too. This idea that if they do 4 downs it'll be a miracle. People will charge towards BMO Field, towards where the Ticats, Ottawa Red Blacks, Montreal Alouettes, I'll name all the teams, BC Lions, Edmonton Elk, Calgary Stampeders, Saskatchewan Roughriders, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're all going to be inundated with fans. And you know why I think that's such a hooey? The NFL has had 4 downs forever. Aaron, did they ever have 3 downs?
Not that I can ever recall.
Me either. But the game sucked. You know what? It sucked a few years ago. Here's what happened, folks. They changed the way they play the game, not the downs. The downs are totally irrelevant. You know, downs to me are just like the jar that holds the wine. If the wine sucks, it doesn't matter how you change the jar, right? It's the wine that matters. And in this case, I'm whining about this whole thing. So at the end of the day, Aaron, what I'm saying is this, real simple. It's all much ado about nothing, like Shakespeare said, right? It's totally irrelevant. Whether it's 3 downs or 4 downs does not make a difference. Until you have a decent offense, which is what the NFL did. They corrected the problem, which was defenses were beating the crap out of offenses. Defenses were literally beating quarterbacks into the ground. So for me, Aaron, it's about fixing the game. And half the problem is the pandemic. The other half is we had problems before the pandemic, so those need to be fixed. How do you feel about this 4 down thing? And the fact that 2 CFL teams said, yeah, maybe we should look at it. And that's the end of the world. And like, well, why didn't you tell us sooner?
I know the 2 teams in question that said that they preferred it. I'm not surprised by the reaction to that. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many downs there are. 90% of the time when people are watching NFL games, they don't know if it's 3rd or 4th down anyways. It's, oh, look, they're kicking the ball again. It's as soon as the NFL went to a hands off the quarterback rule and instituted better roughing the passer rules, the game became better. Infinitely
and protecting
better.
The receivers.
Yep.
And basically putting pressure on the teams. And I don't think they didn't put pressure on the teams to do more offense, because if we didn't learn anything at any time, I think we learned it with the past playoffs in the NFL, what they showed us. And there were tweets everywhere from players, former and present day players in the Canadian Football League, who are saying, and I quote, they're playing CFL football in the playoffs in the NFL. So that's all that has to happen. We have to get back to the way we played the game before. Whatever it takes to basically unleash the offenses, because essentially, Aaron, you know, that's all it is there just is a lack of offense in the Canadian Football League right now.
Yeah, and there's nowhere that's more evident than in the Argonauts playoff football game, where almost all of their offense was provided by their kicker. You know, that's one of those things that's a bit of a red flag and should have been a warning to the CFL that there were larger issues afoot. Besides
Absolutely.
the lack of attendance from the pandemic, there was that.
Absolutely. Totally 100% correct. So tell us about the Rough Riders. What are they doing? We'll go through this stuff really quick, Aaron.
Well, the Rough Riders signed running back Shaq Cooper. Yeah, fantastic player. 5'10", 190. Spent the 2021 season with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and BC Lions. In 5 games with BC, he had 33 carries for 142 yards and 1 touchdown and 11 receptions for 69 yards. In Winnipeg, he was on special teams, making 8 punt returns for 19 yards and kickoffs for 108.
Tell me about the Red Blacks.
Well, the Red Blacks went and signed Patrick Bourgon as their defensive backs coach. Now, he most recently served as the linebackers coach and has been with the team since 2014. He joined the front office as a football ops assistant. Um, and, he's back. And I think that's awesome. After some time with the Diable Rouge de Villepinte in France, he's back.
National Hockey League, Canucks.
Vancouver's Brock Besser is currently out with an upper body injury. It was one of their few bright lights this season. He suffered the injury in a 3-2 overtime loss to the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday.
They don't look to be making the playoffs. The Oilers, who do?
The Oilers, McDavid's OT goal about 31 seconds into overtime sent the Oilers past the Sharks 2-1. Grateful to see that. Mike Smith made a couple of saves early in overtime to keep the Oilers in the game. So that was a pretty significant thing. And it's good to see Evander Kane, while he didn't have any points, did put in a solid performance against his old team.
As they say in France, quelle surprise. The city council in Calgary has had let's restart that talk about the new arena and stuff.
Yeah, so City Council's new events committee had its inaugural meeting. They appointed Councillor Sonia Sharp as chair and set a timeline for securing an agreement for a prospective event center. It does need a little bit of work. It's been around since 1988, so it needs obviously a bit of an update. Plus, you know what? Having a facility there that can actually host concerts would be a benefit to the city of Calgary as well.
Calgary exacts a little revenge on the Kings.
Yeah, so this was good because it helped them get a little further ahead in the standings. They've now managed to extend their lead in the Pacific Division with a 3-2 win over the Kings on Monday. We didn't have a chance to cover that on Monday because obviously it was after we went off the air. But Lindholm had a goal for the Flames, who now have 91 points and a 5-point advantage over the Kings atop the division. And Markstrom had 27 saves as they snapped a 3-game losing streak.
Watson scores twice, Sens beat Canadians.
So this was good news for them. Austin Watson scored twice. They had 3 goals in the third period with a 6-3 win over the Habs. Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, and Colin White also had goals for Ottawa. Anton Forsberg made 27 saves down the stretch. And this is actually the first time the Senators have beat the Habs this entire season.
Staying with the Habs and the Sens, Brendan Gallagher accused Tim Stützle of faking.
It's the age-old, he's diving to draw penalties.
If that's true, and if he's doing that, there is and have been times when the officials and the league, they frown on that kind of behavior, where they end up getting labeled and then they end up getting diving penalties. So if that's true, then diving penalty, please give it to him, because I don't think you or I don't like fake stuff either. But it sure looked to me like the knees locked on the hit that put him down.
Well, I mean, that was a penalty against Suzuki, and that was fine. But the roughing call on Gallagher when he jumped him off the face-off was I think part of that whole flopping and turtling that had him so upset with Stützle. So
well, here I'm going to tell it straight. Gallagher's a great kid. His team loves him. His old GM, cried over signing him. So needless to say, he's a special player in Montreal. But he's just another excrement disturber, in hockey. So I don't want to hear it from him. I don't want to hear how players play and how underhanded players are from a guy who, when you look in a dictionary under underhanded, he has a pretty high listing in that regard. So he should not be talking like that, because he's the last guy that should be making those kinds of criticisms. I agree with him, but he's the last guy that should make those kinds of criticisms.
This is a serious case of the pot calling the kettle black. So,
Exactly. Or the pot calling the kettle blacker. The Maple Leafs, after a hat trick against Tampa, unfortunately, Matthews came up empty in Florida. 2 games diametrically opposed to each other. Aaron, we know that the Leafs won the first one handily. We know they lost the second one tragically in overtime after having led 5-1. What happened?
The Leafs are in the second half of a back-to-back. They started Eric Källgren. Mason Marchment did his usual job of crashing the net.
Oh,
He did catch Shalgren in the neck with a stick once. I believe that Shalgren also caught a stinger on the collarbone, which caused him to leave, and we
see,
had Jack Campbell coming cold.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's the rule on high sticking?
Well, in general, it shouldn't happen, but they don't generally call high sticking if the goalie's down on his knees in the net and you run the crease because the stick isn't above your shoulders, so it's not obvious.
Okie
So
dokie.
now the thing is, I can't really get upset about this loss. The Maple Leafs managed to secure 11 out of 12 points. They went 5-1 in their last 6 games. They outscored their opponents 36-21 in that time period. They got
Don't you
3
mean
shorthanded
4-1 and 1?
goals.
Don't you mean 4-1 and 1?
No,
Okay.
not since they haven't lost since they played the Montreal Canadiens and lost 4-2 on March
They had a
26th.
tie. They had a tie yesterday. They didn't win. They didn't lose. They
Yeah,
lost in
5.
overtime.
They
They got
lost
a
in
point.
overtime. So technically speaking, 5-0-1 if you really want to get nitpicky
Yeah,
about
there
it.
it
But
is. Thank
my
you.
point is, Frank, they scored 3 shorthanded goals. They
I'm
got
on your
7
side
power
here.
play goals.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm on your side. They got points in every game.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to say.
11 out of 12, man. I can't
Not
be
only
upset
that,
about
it's
that.
not only that, Aaron. You're 100% right. You can even look at it the way the coach described it, and he's 100% right, 200% right. They played Florida, the team they lost to, and beat them. They played Boston, the team that gives them fits whenever, and they are crawling, up their posterior in the standings. They beat them. They beat Tampa. So they beat the other 3 teams that are in the division, in the Atlantic Division, and then lost in overtime in the last game, like you said, in a back-to-back. So, yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I was riding you. I wasn't riding you. I was trying to tell you, hey, hold on now. It's even better than you're explaining because the loss wasn't even a real loss, like a loss. It was a tie, and then lose.
I
That
mean,
point was
they gave up a significant lead. There's no
okay.
sugarcoating that. But at the same time, they did manage to chase one of the best goalies in the game with 3 goals in under 2 minutes at the start of the second
I
period.
think the message
Yeah.
was sent. So,
Yeah.
when you compare apples with apples, they chased Toronto's goalie with 4 games experience, which isn't their higher version of their team. Mind you, though, and I think in fairness to Campbell being brought in a game that he really didn't think he'd be in, he really went in cold turkey. It was
Yeah.
really cold turkey going in there. So he can't be blamed for that. And hopefully he won't derive any, lack of confidence due to what happened there. But I found it coincidental and factual. When Marner was asked about the fact that Matthews has 54 goals, and he started talking about Matthews doing it honestly. In other words, he wasn't giving up his defense. If I can fill in a couple of words, wasn't giving up defense for the sake of scoring.
Mhm.
That's exactly what went wrong yesterday with the Leafs in Florida. They were giving up chances they shouldn't have given up, and Marner was among them. And now it wasn't just him. You know, uh, well, the defense, the forwards, leaving a guy alone and leaving a guy alone in front of the net against doesn't matter how good the goalie is. 9 times out of 10, a cross crease pass is going to end up being a goal if you can put it in. Now, on the winning goal, which was in overtime, I don't know. Did you notice anything funny about how the heck did Tavares miss that backhand into the empty net? Oh yeah, he got hooked.
It was right on the right elbow too, and about 15
Oh
feet
yeah,
from the
he got hooked.
referee. It was, oh yeah, no, it was fairly obvious. But again, this is considered because we're in the last quarter to
Right. You
10%
don't
of
want
the
to
season.
affect the game, right? You don't want to cause, you don't want to be
Exactly.
you don't want to affect the game. You can't be having a referee affect the game.
I don't know. Game management is a thing. Despite how the NHL claims it's not, game management is most definitely a thing.
And you know what? Three times in that game, a Leaf had a backhand to an empty net and missed 3 times. So, and that's please don't take that as a criticism of the team. I'm just trying to point out how close a game it was. So yeah, the Leafs lost. They lost. They gave up a 5-1 lead, which is unforgivable. That is unforgivable, right? We can agree that it's unforgivable. except that we're going to forgive them for it because of the way they've been playing lately, and that was a second game, but back to back.
7-2-1 in their last 10. I think they get a little bit of wiggle room because no team is going to go 82-0.
You would have thought the Leafs would have made the playoffs first, but guess what? It's the NBA's Toronto Raptors that have made the playoffs. Siakam is playing lights out, buddy.
Oh, he dropped 31 last night as they beat the Hawks to clinch the playoff spot. I'm so happy to see that. Scotty Barnes added 19 points, and Chris Boucher had 18. Gary Trent Jr. had 14. Van Vliet had 12. It's fantastic. Toronto's actually won 12 of their last 16 games. So, coupled with Cleveland's loss at Orlando, this means that they're going to finish no lower than 6th in the Eastern Conference. So that's definitely a win. At this point, I think the Lakers are pretty much out of it. I believe one of their commentators was heard on a hot mic saying, "Please just kill me now."
Well, the good news is the big guy wasn't playing. He was on the sidelines with a sore ankle. Okay. Did you hear anything about in Toronto they're being told to wear masks again?
I had heard that we were being advised by Dr. Davila that it's a good idea to keep wearing masks. Just because you're not required.
This was a new insistence as of the past 48 hours.
Yeah, this was coming right from Eileen Davila. I believe it came down on Tuesday afternoon. They were saying, keep wearing your masks if you can. I know that we're saying you don't have to, but you should.
Elon Musk buys 10% of Twitter. He's the guy that sent a tweet out once ago, basically saying Twitter sucks. And they're also thinking of adding an edit button.
Yeah, well, him buying this and pumping their stock is pretty much something that you'd expect out of him. He can get on Twitter and say he's going to do all this fantastic stuff. And then when it doesn't get done, blame the board for it, saying, I'm only one guy. It's pretty much how it's going to go. He's going to pump and dump this stock, and it's going to be like Carl Icahn buying into Apple. It's not good for the platform.
Alberta's oil business is booming right now. Only one problem, Aaron. What's the problem?
Oh, the problem is they can't find enough folk that want to work there anymore. Everybody's so afraid of the carbon tax destroying everything and the propaganda about the Trudeau government wanting to stifle and kill oil and gas jobs. Nobody wants to work. It is what it is.
And on the other side of the equation, the wind farms are still going to be built in Alberta.
Yeah. Now this is part of Suncor. They've got a $300 million wind farm project in southern Alberta. They have announced that that's actually going to be part of their divestitures as they're trying to move away from gas and more towards different renewables and more towards hydrogen and solar as opposed to wind. But they're going to continue to build until they sell.
Ontario's going to raise the minimum wage about time.
Yeah, well, this is one of those things that happens shortly before an election. It's going to happen in October, but only if Doug Ford wins.
I got back $700 for my sticker.
Really? That's great.
Well, it's 2 vehicles times 2 years.
Right. Yeah, I had the same thing. I had $250 for one and $370 for the other. So, that worked out nicely. It's a nice little bit of dosh in the pocket, but it doesn't mean I'm going to vote for him.
What? Really?
Why would I? Oh, come on. A bribe.
Oh, really? Seriously? He gave you that much money? I mean, a politician bribed you and you're not going to vote for him?
No, I have integrity.
I don't have integrity. I'm voting. He gives me another $700. Nah, just kidding. That's not going to affect how I vote for him because that money's coming out of it's just going from one pocket to the other pocket. That's all. It's just a reshuffling of the deck chairs on the Titanic.
That's pretty much it.
In my opinion. Aaron, it was swell. Enjoy the rest of Hump Day.
Thanks a lot, Frank. You too.
Okay, for Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.